back to my channel. I'm glad that you're watching. Today I'm going to show you 6 effortless ways that you can get your US visa approved. So in a nutshell, ask yourself, if you are sitting on the other side of the visa counter, would you believe the responses you're intending for the visa officer to believe from you? Without much further ado, here are the 6 steps or 6 effortless ways to increase chances of your visa interview being successful or your visa getting approved. And remember, again, as I mentioned, with the US Embassy, you submit your application way before you go for the interview, which means by the time you're getting there, they have all the information that they need. So here is number 1 tip. So number 1 is that you have to show substantial evidence of a stable source of income. Obviously, when you have a substantial source of stable income, it means that you have every reason to want to come back home. If you already have a stable job or you have a stable business, that means you have every intention to come back home. So obviously, like personally, I have never been asked for a bank statement. However, every time I go for a US interview, I always carry my 6-month certified bank statement. I carry when I used to have a job, I carry my 3 months pay slips from my employer, and also I carry an employment letter from my employer showing that Eva is an employee of our organization. She's worked for us for X number of years, and this is her salary, this is her position, and she's going to an annual leave, and she'll come back, all those nitty-gritties. So make sure that you put all that. So make sure you have a substantial evidence of your source of income, okay? Whether it's your business, make sure you have a business registration certificate, make sure you have your KRA returns filed, and you get copies of your certificate. So all this kind of evidence that you need to prove that you have substantial source of income and every reason to want to come back to Kenya. Number 2, make sure you have sufficient funds to cover your travel and living expenses. So there's different ways in which you can show this. So for example, you can have an air ticket reservation just in case they ask you, but you don't have to.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm tired. How are you?
You can have your hotel bookings, you can have your travel plans all set out together. Just show that you're organized and you know what you're doing. Number 3, make sure you apply for the right type of visa. So like if you go to the US Embassy website, there's tons and tons and tons of visa types that you can apply for. Make sure you apply for the right one. So if it's a short stay, you're staying for a visit, make sure you apply for a B1, B2 visa. If you're going for study, make sure you apply for the right visa. If it's medical reasons, make sure you apply for the right visa. Number 4, you have to be consistent. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, by the time you're going to the embassy, the visa officer interviewing you pretty much knows everything about you. So make sure that everything you put on your electronic application is consistent with what you're going to be telling the officer. So like in my case, I'll give you like an example. So back in the early 90s, I can think about in 1999 when I was still a very young girl, I really wanted to go to the US, and I had a friend who used to live in the US, so he sent me an invite, and I went to the embassy like in I think it was in 98 or 99 thereabout, and I applied for a visa, and I said I was going to visit my friend and blah 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 blah. So unfortunately I didn't get a visa. Like they didn't give me the visa. So fast forward to like 10 years later, in 2009, I am in Afghanistan and I want to travel to the US. So I go and I submit my applications, and the visa officer is like, "Hey Eva, how are you? How can I help you today?" And I said, "I want to apply for a US visa." I said, "Oh, okay." So on the process of being interviewed, and the visa officer goes like, "So how is Nixon doing?" And I'm like, "Who the hell is Nixon?" And I could not remember who Nixon was. So I looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, I can see in 1998 you had applied to go and visit your fiance Nixon." And I'm like, okay. So fortunately at the time I was at the embassy with my son, and since I couldn't remember too much of what Nixon was like, what we were going to do together with Nixon, I So like I think he figured that okay, it's no longer Nixon is in my past now, and I'm now with a different person. So basically the point I'm trying to say is that you have to be really consistent with your applications. These guys have records. Number 5, accuracy and completeness is key. So every time, so when you have already completed your electronic application, at the very end, they are going to give you a list of items or a list of documents that is expected of you to present to the embassy. So like I have mentioned in my case, I have never been asked for a bank statement all the times I've gone to the US embassy. However, I always make sure that I carry them. So it's important that even as much as you may not be asked for these documents, make sure you carry everything that they ask of you. So if you're planning to go as a student, make sure you carry all your I-20s and everything that you need. If you're going to be traveling, just carry those things. You never know what they're going to ask you for. Just carry everything. It's better to carry more and they don't ask you than to carry less and then they ask you for it, and you may be asked to have to come back to the embassy and it's such a hassle. Or if you're unfortunate, they might not even give you a chance to come back. Your visa will just be denied because you're not being you didn't bring everything that they had asked for. And then also number 5, make sure you're honest. Honesty pays all the time. And don't tell me about, I know so and so who lied about this and they got away. Just because your friend or your cousin or your uncle lied and got away with it doesn't mean that you're going to get away with it. And sometimes it's not because like they got a visa because the visa officer didn't know that they lied. I mean, they're also humans. They're probably like, you know what, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear that. And let me tell you, consular officers do hundreds and maybe thousands of interviews in a month. So they have had all the tricks in the book. So don't think what you're trying to tell them is anything new. So try to be honest. Last but not least is your social media profile. Yes. This is something else that you have to be really careful about. Make sure that whatever you're posting on social media is going to work in your favor. And social media here applies to WhatsApp as well. It's not just your Instagram. I know people who have been denied visas because of what was on their social media profile. So you're there and you know very clearly you want to apply for a US visa to go and disappear somewhere, and you go and even post in your profile, hey, watch out, let me get that visa. You'll never see me back here. So make sure whatever you're posting in your public profile is working in your favor. So I think now you're ready to apply for your US visa. And again, as I mentioned, these are just tips that I personally have used, and if you use them, they're just going to increase your chances of getting your US visa approved. It doesn't mean that it's a guarantee to be approved, it just increases your chances. Let me know if this works for you. Again, just to recap, the onus lies with you to convince the visa officer that A, you are a genuine traveler, that you intend to visit the US and come back home once your trip is done, and number 2, that you have what it takes in terms of finances to take yourself to the US, to maintain yourself in the US, and to bring yourself back home wherever home is for you. So that's basically what you need to prove to increase the chances of US visa being approved. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. If you have subscribed, hit the notification button below so that you can be able to get all the videos when I post them. In my next video, I'm going to be showing you ways that you can prove financial ties, economic ties, social ties in your home country to improve chances of having your US visa approved. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. See you in the next video.